Skater girl versus head cheerleader. High school enemies turned reluctant partners for a fundraiser discover chemistry under the bleachers. Ray Morales hadn't planned on coming back to her hometown, let alone skating through the cracked parking lot of Claremont Community Center with her board tucked under one arm like a badge of rebellion she never outgrew. She was 27 now, a muralist with paint still under her fingernails and rent due on a studio that didn't care about sentiment. But when her mom called, guilt-laced and sweet, asking if Ray could help out with the fundraiser to save the community programs that raised them both, Ray caved. That's how she found herself here on a Tuesday night, the echo of bouncing basketballs in the gym, the smell of cheap coffee in styrofoam cups, and a banner half-hung that read, Fall Fest Fundraiser. Of course, her mom had said on the phone, "You'll be working with Avery Hart. She's chairing the event." That name had hit Ray like gravel under wheels. Avery Hart, once the flawless cheer captain, golden girl of every pep rally, and Ray's personal nemesis in the long-running war between pep and punk. They hadn't spoken in years, not since graduation, when Ray sped off to the city and Avery stayed to become the town's favorite success story, marketing director by 25, homeowner by 26, still with that toothpaste commercial smile that made people believe anything she sold. Now Avery was walking across the gym in tailored jeans and a Claremont Pride t-shirt knotted neatly at her waist, clipboard in hand like a weapon. She hadn't changed much, still confident, still dazzling, still someone Ray loved to hate for how put together she looked when Ray was forever paint-smeared and scuffed. "Ray Morales," Avery said, with that same rehearsed brightness. "I was told you'd be joining us. Don't sound so thrilled." Ray shifted her board higher under her arm, defensive without meaning to be. "I'm just here to make sure the Fall Fest doesn't look like a Microsoft Word clip art project." Avery's mouth curved in a way that wasn't quite a smile. "Good. Because we need all the help we can get. The council paired us to co-lead the festival. Apparently, our opposite strengths make us the dream team." "Opposite," Ray echoed. "That's one word for it." "Complementary," Avery countered. "Incompatible," Ray shot back. For a second, their eyes locked, and Ray hated that Avery's were still that unnerving shade of blue, like cold water on a hot day, refreshing, irritating, impossible to ignore. "Either way," Avery said smoothly, "we're stuck together. And the first planning session starts tonight. Unless you're planning on bailing." Ray grinned, sharp and unyielding. "Wouldn't give you the satisfaction." They walked toward the fold-out table side by side, their steps just slightly out of sync, like they were both waiting for the other to trip first. What neither of them admitted, not yet, was that being thrown together might turn out to be exactly the spark both of them had been missing. The folding tables creaked under stacks of half-sorted supplies, poster board, glitter, raffle tickets, extension cords. Ray sat down on the edge of one, ignoring Avery's frown at her complete disregard for table etiquette. "So," Avery began, clicking her pen. "We need a booth concept that's visually appealing, fun for all ages, and guaranteed to bring in money. The bake sale is already taken. Same with the dunk tank." Ray rolled her eyes. "Because nothing says charity like drowning your math teacher." "Actually," Avery said, scanning her clipboard, "Coach Daniels volunteered." Ray barked a laugh. "That I'll pay to see." The air shifted between them, not exactly warmer but less brittle. Ray noticed the way Avery's hair had loosened from its perfect ponytail, now just a long blonde fall over her shoulders. The golden girl was still golden, but more human. Avery cleared her throat. "Ideas?" "Skate demo." Ray kicked her board forward with her heel. "We build a couple of ramps, people pay for tricks. Maybe kids get a shot at trying it out, with helmets, obviously. You'll terrify half the parents." Avery's tone was crisp, but her eyes weren't dismissive, just calculating. "But it could work. Visual draw. Noise factor. Excitement. You say that like they're bad things." "They are, if unmanaged." Avery scribbled something. "We'll need liability waivers. Safety rails. And signage." "Wow," Ray said. You could make skydiving sound boring. Or organized. They stared each other down for a moment. Ray knew the old rhythm well, Avery's efficiency clashing with her own chaos, like two songs layered at the wrong tempo. But underneath it, Ray caught a flicker of something else in Avery's eyes. Not disdain. Not even irritation. More like curiosity. A basketball thudded in the background, some local team still practicing. The sound echoed up into the rafters, where fairy lights from last year's holiday dance still dangled. Ray tilted her head toward the bleachers. Set it up under there, she said. The skate booth. Hidden, a little rebellious. People will want to know what's going on. Curiosity sells. Avery followed her gaze. Under the bleachers? Where all the best secrets happen. Ray smirked. To Ray's surprise, Avery didn't argue. Her lips curved into something almost mischievous. You might be right. That was when Ray felt it, the faintest charge, like static before lightning. She told herself it was just rivalry reignited, old battles flaring in new territory. But she wasn't convinced. Fine, Avery said, snapping her clipboard shut. Under the bleachers it is. Planning session adjourned. Tomorrow, same time? Ray hopped off the table. Guess we're doing this. As Ray skated toward the doors, she glanced back once. Avery was still at the table, tucking her clipboard into her bag, the line of her shoulders relaxed now, almost soft. For a second, Ray let herself wonder what it would be like if working with Avery wasn't a punishment. If it was, impossibly, the start of something else. She shoved the thought away and kicked her board into motion, wheels clattering across the floor. The next evening, Ray arrived 10 minutes late on purpose. Old habits. She figured Avery would already have 3 spreadsheets printed and highlighted, and Ray wasn't about to look overeager. Sure enough, Avery was there, sitting at one of the long cafeteria tables set up for the fundraiser committee. She had her laptop open, her hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun this time, and 2 color-coded folders in front of her. She looked like she was running for office. You're late, Avery said without looking up. You're early, Ray countered, dropping her board onto the floor with a thunk. She slid into the chair across from her. Balance. Avery finally looked up, and Ray caught the tiniest twitch of a smile before it vanished. I drafted some mock-ups for our booth. Floor plan, budget, supply list. Of course you did. Ray leaned across the table, skimming the papers. Avery's handwriting was annoyingly neat, the kind that could double as a font. Ray's own notes were usually illegible scribbles in sketchbooks splattered with paint. You even accounted for glitter. Kids love glitter, Avery said primly. Glitter is the herpes of craft supplies. You never get rid of it. That earned a laugh, quick, surprised, like Avery hadn't meant to let it slip. The sound jolted Ray in a way she wasn't prepared for. She found herself staring, too long, at Avery's mouth as she covered the smile with a sip of coffee. Focus, Morales. So, what's your contribution? Avery asked, snapping Ray out of it. Ray pulled out her own battered sketchbook. Designs. I'll paint grip tape live. Skulls, flames, neon graffiti letters. Or. I dunno. Cute cats if kids ask. She flipped the book open and pushed it toward Avery. Pages bloomed with color, spray paint streaks, sharp-edged lettering, a few sketches that looked like murals in embryo. Avery reached out, careful, and traced a finger over one. This is good. Sound surprised. I'm not. Avery's voice softened. I remember your art. Senior year, the mural you painted on the back of the school. The one they threatened to paint over. Ray blinked. You remember that? I remember everything, Avery said simply. Her eyes flicked up, catching Ray's, and for a moment the gym noises faded, the world narrowed. Ray swallowed, suddenly too aware of the heat between them, the way their hands almost brushed across the sketchbook. Anyway, Avery said quickly, pulling back. We'll need signage. A theme. Something to tie it all together. Ray leaned back, smirking to cover the weird hitch in her chest. What about under the bleachers? We hang curtains, string lights, make it feel like a secret club. Avery tilted her head, considering. Mysterious. Playful. It might actually work. Of course it'll work. Ray tapped her pen against the table. People love secrets. Especially if we sell them one. For once, Avery didn't argue. She just nodded, slowly, as though Ray had given her something more than an idea. Saturday morning, Ray showed up at the community center with a toolbox, 2 cans of spray paint, and a 6-pack of gas station donuts. She found Avery already there, of course, wearing sneakers, fitted jeans, and a white tee knotted at the hip. She looked less fundraiser chairwoman and more Pinterest model accidentally slumming it, and Ray hated how quickly she noticed. You're late again, Avery said, hands on her hips. I brought donuts, Ray replied, holding up the box. Peace offering. Avery hesitated before taking one. She bit into the powdered sugar carefully, like even donuts had to meet her standards, but Ray caught the small sigh of satisfaction she tried to hide. They hauled supplies beneath the bleachers together, ducking under beams and weaving between support bars. Dust motes floated in slats of sunlight. It smelled like old wood and memories. Ray had spent half her adolescence sneaking cigarettes here. Avery had probably never even gotten her uniform dirty. We'll need draping, Avery said, surveying the shadowy alcove. Fairy lights. Maybe a backdrop. Ray crouched, shaking a spray can. The metallic rattle echoed under the bleachers like a dare. Or we just tag it. Raw. Gritty. Authentic. Avery wrinkled her nose. Authentic tetanus, maybe. Relax. I'll make it look good. Ray sprayed a quick streak of turquoise across the plywood backdrop they'd scavenged. The color popped against the dull wood. She turned to find Avery watching, lips parted, eyes brighter than usual. You make it look easy, Avery said quietly. Ray raised a brow. It is easy. Just color and courage. Not everyone has both. The words landed heavier than Ray expected. For a moment, the air between them thickened, threaded with things unspoken. Ray swallowed, forcing a smirk. Don't worry, heart. Stick with me, you'll get some edge by osmosis. Avery laughed, brushing hair from her face. And what do I give you in return? Order, Ray said, deadpan. Maybe an actual budget. They worked side by side, stringing fairy lights, arranging tables, painting panels. The silence between them wasn't hostile anymore, it hummed. Ray caught herself stealing glances at Avery's focused frown, the way her shoulders flexed when she tugged wires taut, the dust smudge on her cheek she didn't notice. At one point, their hands collided on the same hammer. Both froze. Avery looked up sharply, their eyes locking in the dim light. Neither moved for a breath too long. Sorry, Avery said, pulling back. No harm, Ray replied, but her pulse was still hammering harder than the tool in her hand. They finished by noon, the hidden alcove transformed into something between an art gallery and a secret fort. Lights glowed warm, spray paint gleamed, and the booth felt alive, like theirs. Avery stepped back, hands on her hips, surveying the space. It might actually work. Of course it will, Ray said. We're a terrifyingly effective duo. Their eyes met again, and this time neither looked away immediately. By the time they broke for lunch, Ray's arms were streaked with turquoise and gold paint, while Avery had somehow managed to keep her white tee spotless, except for one smear near the hem that made Ray grin every time she noticed it. Don't say it, Avery warned, catching Ray's glance. Say what? Ray asked innocently, stuffing another donut into her mouth. That you told me so about the paint. Didn't have to. It looks good on you. Ray meant it as a jab, but the way Avery's eyes flickered, almost shy, almost pleased, made her chest tighten unexpectedly. They leaned against the backdrop, munching in companionable silence. The fairy lights cast a glow even in daylight, softening the rough wood and the tension between them. Ray found herself staring at the strands of light tangled above them, remembering sneaking kisses here years ago with people whose names she barely recalled now. Strange how this place could hold so many versions of a person. Avery broke the silence first. I used to come here during games, she admitted. Not often. Just when the noise was too much. Ray tilted her head. Had Cheerleader hiding from her own spotlight? Sometimes it felt heavy. Avery's tone surprised Ray, stripped of its usual polish. Everyone wanted me to be perfect. Smile wider. Jump higher. Never falter. But under here, nobody was watching. For once, Ray didn't have a quip ready. She set her board down, nudging it with her sneaker. Guess we both claimed this place for ourselves, then. You to escape expectations. Me to escape rules. Their eyes met, and it was like recognizing each other for the first time, not as rivals, but as two girls who had been running in opposite directions from the same weight. Avery shifted closer, just enough that Ray could feel the warmth radiating off her. You're different than I remember, she said softly. Ray's pulse spiked. So are you. The air under the bleachers seemed to hold its breath. Ray became hyper-aware of everything, the way Avery's lashes caught the light, the faint smell of sugar and coffee on her breath, the slow, inevitable lean of her body. For a dangerous heartbeat, Ray thought Avery was going to kiss her. She almost wanted her to. But Avery pulled back suddenly, clearing her throat. We should finish the signage before the council comes to inspect. Ray exhaled, forcing a grin to cover the storm inside. Right. Can't have them thinking we're just loitering. But her hand shook slightly when she reached for the brush again, and she knew that whatever this thing was between them, it wasn't going away. By the time the week of the Fall Fest arrived, Ray and Avery had fallen into an uneasy rhythm. Ray supplied the color, paint, sketches, a streak of rebellion that made their booth feel alive. Avery supplied the structure, budgets, schedules, and charming volunteers into helping even when they swore they were too busy. The booth itself had transformed into something magnetic, fairy lights wound through beams, curtains draped for privacy, spray-painted panels blazing with Ray's murals. In the middle sat a long work table covered in grip tape, paint pens, and glitter jars Avery swore were controlled substances. It looked like chaos and order had collided and decided to hold hands. But Ray noticed something else too. Every day, under those bleachers, Avery seemed to shed a layer of armor. Her hair wasn't always perfect anymore, sometimes she showed up in sneakers instead of heels. She laughed easier. She teased Ray back. And sometimes, when she thought Ray wasn't looking, her gaze lingered. The Friday before the festival, they stayed late to finish the last pieces. The gym above them was dark and empty, only the hum of the vending machine breaking the silence. Ray was crouched on the floor, stenciling flames onto a deck, when Avery knelt beside her to hold the panel steady. Their arms brushed. Neither moved away. You're really good at this, Avery murmured, eyes following the sweep of paint. Ray smirked. Careful, heart. Compliments sound a lot like flirting. Avery's cheeks flushed in the dim light, but she didn't deny it. Instead, she leaned a little closer, her voice low. What if it is? The brush stilled in Ray's hand. Her pulse jumped. This was it, the line between rivalry and something messier, hotter. She could almost taste the charged air between them. But before Ray could answer, a clatter echoed from the far end of the gym. A janitor locking up. The spell broke like glass. Avery jumped to her feet, too quickly. We should, call it a night. Big day tomorrow. Ray forced a laugh, packing away her paints. Yeah. Wouldn't want the rumor mill spinning before we're even open. Still, as they walked out into the cool night air, Ray's fingers tingled where Avery's arm had brushed hers. And Avery, Ray noticed, walked just a little too close, like she wasn't ready to break the gravity between them. Saturday dawned bright, the kind of autumn day small towns brag about on postcards. The community center parking lot buzzed with booths, homemade pies, face painting, raffle tables. Kids ran wild with balloons, parents clustered with paper cups of cider. But the biggest crowd gravitated toward the glowing nook under the bleachers. Ray's spray-painted panels blazed with color, fairy lights flickered, and Avery's strategic signage made it look like the hottest ticket at the festival. "Step right up," Avery called, her voice carrying like a pro. "Custom boards, custom art, limited spots, don't miss out." Ray worked furiously at the table, sketching flames, stars, and neon graffiti on grip tape while Avery kept the line moving. They were opposites, sure, but today they moved like gears, one sparking, the other spinning, perfectly meshed. "You're killing it," Ray muttered between designs. "So are you," Avery shot back, handing out tickets with that practiced smile. But when Ray glanced up, she caught Avery grinning in a way that wasn't rehearsed at all, something private, directed only at her. By midday, they were swamped. The booth raised more than double what the council had hoped, and the energy was electric. Parents leaned in to admire Ray's work, kids squealed when Avery painted glitter stars on their cheeks. For a moment, Ray almost forgot the years of sniping and rivalry. They were just good together. When the rush finally thinned, Avery tugged Ray's sleeve. "Break. Now." They ducked into the deepest part of the booth, behind a curtain strung with extra lights. It was quieter there, private. Ray leaned against the plywood, catching her breath, sweat streaking her temples. Avery stood close, closer than necessary, her clipboard abandoned somewhere out front. "You did it," Ray said. "Golden Girl saves the day again." Avery shook her head. "No. We did it. Together." Something about the way she said "together" landed low in Ray's stomach. The fairy lights shimmered, dust motes drifting like confetti. Ray realized, with a clarity that almost hurt, that she didn't want to go back to hating Avery Hart. Not anymore. Avery's eyes searched hers, blue and bright and unguarded. "Ray," she started, voice trembling just enough to betray nerves. Ray didn't let her finish. She stepped forward, closing the space between them until their shoulders brushed, their breath mingled, and the tension that had been simmering for weeks finally lit like a match. Neither moved further, but neither moved away. The world outside kept buzzing, but under the bleachers, time held still. The silence under the bleachers stretched, thick as honey. Ray could hear her own pulse in her ears, could see the way Avery's chest rose and fell faster than usual. The clipboard queen, the picture of composure, was unraveling right in front of her. "You're staring," Ray said softly, just to break the tension. "You started it," Avery whispered back. That was all it took. Ray leaned in, slow enough to give Avery every chance to pull away. She didn't. Avery's breath hitched, and then their lips brushed, a soft, tentative spark that sent fire racing through Ray's veins. It wasn't the kind of kiss Ray expected. She'd imagined it sharp, competitive, all heat and teeth. Instead it was careful, questioning, like Avery was letting herself be reckless for the first time in years. Ray deepened it just slightly, her hand finding Avery's waist, and Avery melted closer, fingers clutching Ray's paint-stained hoodie like it was the only solid thing in the world. The fairy lights hummed above them. Somewhere outside, a kid shouted about winning a raffle, but under here, it was just them, their mouths moving together in a rhythm both new and inevitable. When they finally pulled apart, Avery's lips were pinker, her breath uneven. She blinked, stunned, as if she couldn't quite believe what she'd done. "Wow," Ray murmured, still close enough to feel the warmth of her skin. Golden Girl's got secrets after all. Avery swatted her arm, but the gesture was weak, more flustered than angry. "Don't make this into one of your jokes." "Wasn't a joke." Ray's grin softened into something more dangerous, something honest. "Been wanting to do that since. God, probably since you beat me out for student muralist in 10th grade. Avery laughed, the sound shaky but real. "You're ridiculous." "Maybe." Ray brushed a thumb over Avery's hand, daring her to pull away. She didn't. For the first time, the bleachers weren't just a hiding spot or a battleground. They were a beginning. They stayed tucked behind the curtain for another moment, neither quite willing to break the spell. Ray could still taste powdered sugar and coffee on Avery's lips, still feel the tremble of her fingers gripping Ray's sleeve. Finally, Avery exhaled and stepped back, pressing a hand to her forehead like she could smooth her composure back into place. "We should go. Before someone notices we've gone AWOL." Ray smirked, though her heart was racing. "Relax, heart. No one's gonna think we were making out under here." Avery shot her a look, half scandalized, half amused. "You're impossible. And you're still holding my hand." Avery glanced down, startled, and only then did she release Ray's fingers. She didn't apologize. She just turned, tugged the curtain aside, and slipped back into the noise of the festival. Ray followed, grinning like a fool and trying not to show it. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of faces and laughter. Word spread fast that their booth was the place to be, and by evening, the line still stretched across the parking lot. Avery worked the crowd with effortless charm, while Ray's hands moved non-stop, sketching, painting, creating. But beneath every exchange, every glance, a new current hummed between them. When their arms brushed passing a paintbrush. When Avery leaned close to whisper about supplies running low. When Ray caught her staring across the table, eyes bright in the glow of the fairy lights. By the time the sun dipped low and the lanterns around the lot lit up, their jar was overflowing with donations. Kids left grinning with glitter and custom boards, parents clapped them on the back, and even the principal dropped by to congratulate them. "You pulled it off," he said. "Best booth we've had in years." Avery beamed, but Ray caught the way her gaze flickered sideways, softening when it landed on her. Later, when the crowds thinned and they started packing up, Avery ducked back under the bleachers with Ray to quell the lights. The quiet wrapped around them again, the noise of the festival fading to a distant hum. Today was, Avery hesitated, winding the string around her wrist. "More than I expected." Ray tilted her head, playful but sincere. "Because we didn't kill each other?" "Because," Avery said, stepping closer, "I think we might actually make a good team." The way she said it, low, certain, made Ray's chest ache. And when Avery's hand brushed hers again, Ray didn't let go this time. The fundraiser wrapped with cheers and tired laughter, the kind of collective relief only small towns knew. Ray helped load leftover supplies into a van while Avery charmed the council members, shaking hands, accepting compliments. By the time the last booth was dismantled and the parking lot emptied, the sky was velvet dark and the community center sat quiet again. Ray leaned against the tailgate, sipping lukewarm cider from a paper cup. Her muscles ached, her hoodie smelled like spray paint and sugar, but she felt wired, restless. She couldn't stop replaying that kiss, couldn't stop thinking about how Avery's lips had lingered just long enough to mean something. Avery finally crossed the lot, clipboard tucked under one arm, hair messy from the long day. She didn't look like the head cheerleader anymore, she looked like a woman who had worked herself ragged and was still glowing with adrenaline. "Council's thrilled," Avery said, dropping the clipboard onto the tailgate beside Ray. "We raised more than enough to keep the programs going for another year." Ray lifted her cup in salute. "So, victory lap? Where do Golden Girls celebrate?" Avery's mouth curved. "Usually with wine. But right now? I just want fries." Ray laughed. "Classy." They ended up at the only diner still open after 10, tucked into a booth with peeling vinyl seats. The waitress didn't bother with menus, just brought them fries, milkshakes, and 2 waters. For a while they ate in silence, the buzz of the neon sign outside their soundtrack. Ray dipped a fry in her shake just to make Avery wrinkle her nose. "You're disgusting," Avery said, but there was no bite to it. "You kissed disgusting," Ray shot back, and immediately wished she hadn't. Avery froze, her fry halfway to her mouth. For a long second, Ray thought she'd crossed the line. But then Avery set the fry down, folded her hands, and met Ray's eyes. "I don't regret it," she said. Ray's chest tightened. "Neither do I." The words hung between them, simple but loaded. The diner clatter seemed far away. For once, Ray didn't feel the need to cover herself with jokes or smirks. She just let the honesty sit. Avery reached across the table, tentative but deliberate, and laced her fingers through Ray's paint-stained ones. For the first time all night, Ray exhaled. Their joined hands rested on the sticky laminate tabletop, a tiny rebellion against the hum of fluorescent lights and the squeak of sneakers from the lone busboy sweeping near the jukebox. Ray traced her thumb along Avery's knuckles, surprised by how natural it felt. "You know," Ray said, voice lower than usual, "if someone told me a month ago I'd be holding hands with Avery Hart in a diner after saving the town fair, I'd have laughed them right out of the room." Avery smirked faintly, though her eyes softened. "Trust me, I wouldn't have believed it either. I spent years thinking you hated me." Ray blinked. "I didn't hate you." "You sure?" Avery asked, arching a brow. The glares in the hallway, the snide comments, the way you always acted like cheerleaders were a walking cliché. "That wasn't hate," Ray admitted. "That was jealousy, Hart. You were untouchable. Perfect hair, perfect grades, perfect smile. Everyone loved you." She huffed a laugh. "Meanwhile, I was busy spray painting back lots and getting detention." Avery squeezed her hand gently. "You think I had it easy because I smiled a lot?" "Ray, half the time I was terrified. I kept waiting for the moment someone figured out I wasn't as perfect as they thought." Ray studied her, really studied her, and for the first time saw not the golden girl, but a woman who'd been carrying too much for too long. "Guess we were both faking it, huh?" "Maybe," Avery said. Her lips curved, shy this time, not rehearsed. "But this? Right now? Doesn't feel fake." Ray's chest tightened in a way that felt dangerous and good all at once. "Yeah," she murmured. "Feels like maybe the first real thing in a long time." Neither spoke for a while, just sat there, hands entwined, fries cooling on the plate between them. The waitress refilled their waters and gave them a knowing smile before retreating. Finally, Avery broke the quiet. "What happens now?" Ray leaned back, considering. "We could pretend it was just a kiss. Go back to bantering like enemies, keep the peace." "And the other option?" Avery asked. Ray smiled, slow and certain. "We stop pretending. See where this goes." Avery's eyes searched hers, wary but hopeful. "And what if people talk?" "They will," Ray said simply. "Let 'em. We'll give them a better story than the one they think they know." Avery laughed softly, relief flickering across her face. She squeezed Ray's hand again, and this time she didn't let go. The diner's neon sign buzzed faintly when they finally pushed out the door, hands still linked like they'd forgotten how to let go. The air was crisp, the kind of autumn night that smelled of wood smoke and fried food lingering from the festival. Ray kicked her board up into her hand and tucked it under her arm, matching her stride to Avery's. "Want me to walk you home?" Ray asked, the words coming out more earnest than casual. Avery tilted her head, lips curving. "Chivalry from the girl who used to graffiti the school lockers?" "Don't read too much into it," Ray said, though the warmth in her chest betrayed her. "Besides, it's dangerous out here. Packs of roaming PTA moms." Avery laughed, the sound soft in the night. "Fine. You can walk me home." The streets were quiet, houses lit from within, the whole town settling into its Saturday night rhythm. They passed the park where Ray had learned to ollie, the library Avery had practically lived in, memories flickering like street lamps. For the first time, their rivalry felt like a strange kind of history they could both smile at. When they reached Avery's place, a tidy bungalow with flower boxes still blooming despite the chill, she lingered at the gate. "This is me." Ray leaned against the fence, trying to look casual while her pulse thumped in her throat. "So, this is the part where you thank me for escorting you past the PDA gangs." Avery rolled her eyes but stepped closer. "Thank you, Ray Morales." Her voice softened. "For tonight. For everything." Ray wanted to play it off with a joke, but the sincerity in Avery's gaze pinned her in place. Before she could second-guess it, Avery leaned in and pressed another kiss against her mouth. This one wasn't tentative. It was certain, claiming, the kind of kiss that said the decision had already been made. When they pulled back, Avery's hand lingered at Ray's jaw, thumb brushing paint flecks she hadn't noticed. "I don't want this to be a one-time thing," she whispered. Ray swallowed hard. "Good. Because I'm not done kissing you under bleachers, or neon signs, or anywhere, really." Avery laughed, the sound breaking the quiet like bells. She opened her door, glanced back once with a smile that was all invitation, and disappeared inside. Ray stood on the sidewalk a long moment, heart hammering, before skating off into the night with a grin she couldn't shake. The following week, Ray found herself at the community center again, this time painting a mural on the outer wall, payment, in her mind, for years of sneaking around and using it as her personal hangout. She had headphones blasting punk in one ear, but the other remained tuned to the shuffle of footsteps approaching. "Caught you," Avery's voice teased, light but sure. Ray turned, brush still dripping neon blue. Avery stood there in a blazer and slacks, clearly coming from work, but holding 2 iced coffees like she'd planned this detour. "You stalking me now?" Ray asked. "Checking in on the town's newest benefactor," Avery said, handing her one of the cups. "Council's still talking about how much money we raised. They're considering making the underbleachers booth a tradition." Ray smirked. "Guess they'll need us back as co-chairs." "Guess so." Avery's lips curved, but then her expression shifted. She glanced around, lowering her voice. "Though, if we keep sneaking off together, people are going to notice." "Let them," Ray said without hesitation. Avery bit her lip, like she wanted to agree but couldn't quite silence the old reflexes, the instinct to manage appearances, to be flawless. "Small towns talk. You know that." Ray rinsed her brush in a jar, leaning casually against the wall. "Let them talk. They've been writing their own stories about us since we were kids. Why not give them a better one?" Avery laughed softly, but Ray didn't miss the tension in her shoulders. That night, they didn't hide. After Avery's council meeting and Ray's late skate session, they met at the park. They sprawled on the grass, passing a bag of greasy fries between them, talking about everything they'd missed in each other's lives. Ray told stories of city rooftops and murals that almost got her arrested. Avery confessed she sometimes felt trapped by the town's expectations, like she was still wearing a uniform she couldn't take off. By the time the stars blinked awake overhead, Ray rolled onto her side and whispered, "You don't have to be perfect with me, heart." Avery's answering look was vulnerable, raw. "And you don't always have to be the rebel." They kissed again, this time under an open sky, no bleachers to hide them, no fairy lights to soften the edges. Just Ray and Avery, finally meeting in the middle of the stories they'd been running from. Sunday afternoon found them in Avery's kitchen, sunlight spilling across countertops stacked with takeout containers. Ray perched on the counter, sipping from a mug Avery insisted was the good china, though it was really just a chipped ceramic with a faded sunflower. "You're not much of a cook, are you?" Ray teased, eyeing the pizza box and half-eaten carton of lo mein. Avery scoffed, hands on her hips. "Excuse me, I make excellent reservations." Ray grinned, leaning back on her palms. "Good thing I like carbs more than fine dining." It felt domestic in a way that startled them both. Avery moved easily around Ray now, brushing past her to grab napkins, leaning into her space without hesitation. Ray, in turn, reached for Avery's wrist when she passed, tugging her close just to plant quick kisses that left Avery laughing, flushed. Later, they sprawled on Avery's living room floor, surrounded by scraps of poster board and sketches Ray had brought. Ray sketched while Avery flipped through old vinyl records, arguing over what music fit Ray's style best. "You're a Ramones girl," Avery declared, holding up the sleeve. Ray arched a brow. "What makes you so sure?" "You've got that fast, chaotic energy. Like you'd pick a fight with a metronome." Ray laughed so hard she nearly smudged her drawing. "Fine. And your Fleetwood Mac. Polished, mystical, always in control. But secretly wild when the lights go down. Avery paused, the album cover in her hands. You see more than you should, she said softly. Ray set her pencil down, eyes meeting hers across the mess of sketches. Maybe I've always seen you. The words lingered, heavy and true. Avery crawled across the floor, settling beside her, and pressed their foreheads together before kissing her slow, deep, unhurried. When they pulled back, Ray muttered, if the town's gossip mill saw us now, they'd combust. Avery smiled against her lips. Let them. Right now, it's just us. And for once, that was enough. Ray wasn't used to stillness. Her life had been a carousel of murals, gigs, and temporary apartments, never staying long enough to let roots tangle. But in Avery's world, she discovered a different kind of rhythm, slow mornings, quiet laughter, the hum of belonging. One evening, they sprawled across Ray's tiny studio, the walls splashed with unfinished canvases. Avery sat cross-legged on the paint-splattered rug, wearing one of Ray's hoodies so oversized it swallowed her. She leafed through Ray's sketchbooks with reverence, fingers careful not to smudge the graphite. You've drawn me, Avery murmured, pausing at a page. Ray stiffened. The sketch was rough, half-finished, a memory of Avery from years ago, sharp bow in her hair, smile like armor. Yeah, Ray admitted. I used to draw you a lot. Couldn't help it. You were like a dare I couldn't figure out how to beat. Avery looked up, eyes shining. And now? Now? Ray shrugged, feigning nonchalance, though her chest ached. Now you're still a dare. Just one I don't want to beat anymore. The softness that bloomed across Avery's face undid Ray completely. She crawled over the paint cans and pulled Avery into her lap, pressing kisses along her jaw until Avery was laughing, breathless, hands tangled in Ray's hair. Another night, it was Avery's turn to share. She took Ray to the high school gym, long empty after hours. The bleachers creaked under their weight as they climbed to the top row. Avery kicked off her heels, letting her legs dangle like she was 17 again. I used to sit up here before games, she confessed. Pretend I was fearless. Pretend the noise didn't scare me. Ray reached over, lacing their fingers together. Guess we both pretended a lot back then. Avery leaned her head on Ray's shoulder, voice quiet. Not anymore. They sat in the gym smelling of dust and memories, until Ray kissed her again, this time not tentative, not hesitant, but certain. And for once, Avery kissed back without fear of who might be watching. Friday nights became their ritual. Not dates, not officially, just stolen hours where the world felt smaller, quieter. Ray would skate to Avery's place with a backpack slung over her shoulder, filled with snacks and sketchpads. Avery would already have a blanket thrown across the couch, candles lit, and some indie film queued up that they both knew they'd only half-watch. One night, Ray lay stretched across the couch, head pillowed on Avery's lap. Avery absent-mindedly combed her fingers through Ray's hair while they argued about which superhero was most likely queer-coded. Wonder Woman, Ray said firmly, gesturing with a half-eaten slice of pizza. She literally grew up on an island of women. Do the math. Avery laughed, the sound vibrating through Ray's bones. You're insufferable. And you love it. I'm starting to, Avery admitted softly, and Ray went still. Her heart stuttered at the casual honesty. Ray turned, meeting her gaze from below. Avery's expression was unguarded, tender in a way Ray rarely saw from anyone, let alone her. Without thinking, Ray reached up, cupped Avery's cheek, and pulled her down into a kiss that was slow, unhurried, the kiss that said this wasn't about sparks anymore, it was about warmth, about staying. Later, they took Avery's car out of town, driving with the windows down and music blasting. Ray stuck her arm out the window, fingers slicing the wind. Avery sang along badly to every chorus, and Ray thought she could live in that sound forever. They ended up at the lake, lying side by side on the dock, the stars scattering like secrets above them. I used to come here after games, Avery said. To breathe. To feel small in a good way. Ray reached over, threading their fingers together. Guess you don't have to do that alone anymore. Avery squeezed her hand, eyes glinting in the starlight. No. I don't. They kissed again under the open sky, the water lapping gently at the dock. And for the first time, Ray realized she wasn't thinking about escape or the next city mural. She was thinking about here. About Avery. About staying. The end. If you read this far, thanks for being here. Let me know in the comments if you want a part 2 to see where the love between Ray and Avery grows.